Dreamweaver has a lot of panels and dialog boxes. One of the most important is the Property Inspector, which is this large panel at the bottom of the workspace underneath the document window. If you can't see it, go to the Window menu and select Properties. There's also a keyboard shortcut, Control F3 on Windows, Command F3 on a Mac, and if you use that keyboard shortcut it'll toggle the Property Inspector closed and open again. At the bottom right of the Property Inspector is a tiny little white triangle. If you click that, it collapses the Property Inspector to half its height. This can be useful if you want to see more of the document window, but I recommend against collapsing the Property Inspector to half its height because it's a context-sensitive panel, and if you collapse it to half its height, in many cases you won't be able to see all of the options that are available. So let's restore it to its full height by clicking that triangle again. A useful tip, by the way, if you want to see more of the document window, a quick way to do so is to press F4, and that hides all of the panels, and if you press F4 again it brings them all back. Now let's get back to the Property Inspector. Some people call it the Properties panel because it says Properties in the tab at the top left here, but its official name is the Property Inspector, and that's the way I'm going to refer to it throughout the course. And one reason for that is to avoid confusion with this panel over here, which is actually a pane inside the CSS Designer panel that's also called Properties. So I'll refer to this as the Properties pane of the CSS Designer and to this as the Property Inspector. As I mentioned, it's context sensitive, so if I put my cursor anywhere inside this heading here, it will show me the text related properties for that heading. It shows me the format. I can change it from heading 1 to heading 2, which makes it smaller, or I can change it even to a paragraph, which makes it smaller still, but I want to change it back to heading 1. And then if I scroll down the page and select one of these images, it will show me completely different properties. I'll explain what all the options mean later in the course. The important thing to realize is that the Property Inspector is very context sensitive. Let's go to this article. You can see a much smaller set of options there. In the case of article, the Property Inspector isn't very helpful, but it really does become helpful when you're working with audio elements, video elements and forms, and of course with images and text. So the Property Inspector, its purpose is to give you quick access to the most frequently used attributes of HTML elements. It shows different options depending on what's currently selected. And if your insertion point is in text, make sure that this HTML button on the left is selected. There are plans to remove the CSS button, so its functionality isn't covered in this course.